To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
So, the other day, you know, if you've been a long time watcher of the channel, then you know that what I made a name for had to do with all of the woke church stuff, and then that kind of over time morphed, and I just kind of became sort of an anti-Big Eva channel in general. You know what I mean? We would watch a video of Matt Chandler or Russell Moore or Eric Mason, and I would just in a very humorous kind of a way, just show you how not only dumb and just milquetoast what they were saying was, but also how it actually inverts a lot of the time uh, what Christianity actually teaches, what the Bible actually teaches. It inverts it, but it doesn't invert it in a way that's necessarily obvious to many people. And many people over the years have told me that I have a knack for doing exactly that, making it very simple, but also very much derived straight from the Bible's teaching. That's what my book is about. It's very simple to understand, and it's very clear how people like this invert the biblical teaching. But the thing that's sort of disturbing about it is that this is it goes beyond theory, right? Like theology sometimes can be just so theoretical, and people call it navel gazing and stuff like that. But of course, it doesn't stay there. I mean, it actually affects how you conduct your life. It actually affects how you respond to things, and what you support, what you're against, and what you throw your energy into. And so, it's more serious than, we can tell a few jokes about how wrong Eric Mason is. I mean, the man is a complete idiot, but at the end of the day, a lot of people follow that line of thinking and follow him as a person, and it affects real life as well. But the other day, I was talking to on the phone with John Harris. We talked for like an hour and a half, and I kind of told him that I've kind of lost interest in a lot of this. Like you watch the channel, I don't upload as much as I normally used to, and part of that is because I'm busy at work. Work is a lot more difficult than it used to be. Just to be totally transparent, the first few months of the year were completely brutal for my particular job markets, and so I've had to spend a lot more time doing that. And I've kind of shifted my targets a little bit, and things are fine now. I mean, it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's not like I'm not destitute or anything. And I plan for this kind of stuff too. I mean, I have a lot of reserves, and because I know that sometimes it can be cyclical. So part of it is because I'm more busy at work, but part of it is because I've just lost interest. It wasn't fun anymore, and I just don't care. When Eric Mason says something stupid or Russell Moore says something stupid, I just don't care as much as I used to. That's what I told John. And I'm not going to tell you what he said, but as far as that goes, that's kind of where I stood. You know what I mean? That's where I stood, and so that's just the truth. Um, but over the last few weeks, um, well, maybe really even the last week, um, I've been feeling like a you know a white hot rage kind of bubbling on the inside, and I'm pretty good at protecting the exterior, and I'm not mad all the time or anything like that, but I've been feeling a certain level of anxiety on the inside because I'm getting really furious about the results of so many different things. And I don't know. I think this situation with this assassination of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is not someone that I followed. Of course, I've seen clips of him, and they're always good. You know what I mean? It's impossible to not see clips of Charlie Kirk. But I never followed him, and I didn't know too much about him. I knew some basic facts, and they were essentially this: that he was, um, you know, conservative, kind of the official trademark variety, but maybe a little better than that. Like I never looked at him the same way I look at Mitch McConnell. You know what I mean? Um, so conservative, mainstream. I knew he was a Christian, is a Christian. And I know he was not, shy about that. You know what I mean? He was very open, very assertive about it. But I also knew he was an all-around like nice guy. You know what I mean? Like he's the ideal that people like Matt Chandler or Jared Wilson would say that we have to be. Winsome, humorous, just a nice guy. He had his beliefs, but he's someone you can talk to, willing to talk, all this kind of stuff. He's the ideal person that Big Eva says you need to be, except in a few areas, because he believed many more true things than Big Eva ever could. And so, in those ways, he was probably very dangerous to them. Um, and, and here's the thing, like evangelical leadership just does not have the categories available to them to do what must be done in situations like this. Donald Trump there had some good words. I hope he follows it with action. And I hope that action is merciless to left-wing activists that engage in this style of activism. They don't have categories for that. In fact, today, and this is the thing, like the fruit of this is everywhere. You can see it everywhere, right? Because Big Eva has perpetually treated its followers like children. They've treated their followers like children, that they can't think in more than one sentence at a time. They can think only in slogans. They've taught you the Bible as if it were a book of slogans. And that has stunted people to such a degree that they can't even, there's no way to communicate to them what must be done in situations like this. There's no way, because they cannot think in more than a slogan. Today I posted on X. Let me find it really quick to give you an example of what I mean. I wrote, vengeance is exactly the answer right now. Don't listen to the gay Christian liberals. Vengeance is the Lord's. He gave that tool to the government. Trump's time is now. Somebody asked me in the comments, and this was a legitimate question. What is this rhetoric? What do you hope to accomplish with this rhetoric? And I explained to him that what I hope to accomplish is to normalize supporting Trump and his people to take the action that needs to be taken to put an end to left-wing activism in the country. However they have to do it. They need to cut the head off of it now. This is why I voted for Trump. I mean, obviously there's other benefits to Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Economic, international, all this kind of stuff. But those are not the reasons I voted for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for him to make eggs cost less. That would be nice, but I didn't vote for him for that. I voted for him for exactly this reason. Times like this, to be God's revenger in situations like this. And so I wrote this, and I knew, obviously, that many people would have a problem with this. But if you look at the comments and the responses to this very obviously biblical argument, vengeance is the Lord's. He gave that tool to the government. Trump's time is now. You will see people responding in slogans that they learned from idiots that call themselves evangelical leaders. They would say, "Oh, well, we're not supposed to take revenge. Don't revenge yourself, beloved." Stuff like that. These are all Bible verses, right? And so it's like, well, AD, how could you argue with Bible verses? But here's the thing: don't take revenge, beloved. Instead, if your enemy's thirsty, give him something to drink. That's from the Bible, right? Can't argue with that. but it's not a freaking slogan. The thought carries over multiple sentences. I even gave, this is the thing, I'm a very generous guy, so I even gave the passage where you could find what I'm talking about. Vengeance is the Lord's. He says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. And then he goes on and he says that the government is a servant of God executing vengeance. He uses the same word. Don't take revenge, beloved. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. The civil governing authority is my servant, taking revenge on the evildoer. It is an avenger of God, a revenger. It's the same word. Look, I know a lot of you guys aren't that bright. I get it. I understand. But it's such an easy, like it's the same root word. It's all right there. It's all, you can see it, even in English. Revenge, avenge, vengeance. That venge in the middle, it's not on accident that it's the same root. It's the same word. An avenger, a revenger, is someone who takes vengeance. That's what the servant of God does. That's the civil governing authority. That's what it does. This is exactly the time for Trump to respond to viciousness with viciousness. He's the avenger. He's the revenger. And no matter what you say to people, say, hey, just keep reading the passage. You know what I mean? Read a few more sentences, because you'll see how it goes together, right? You don't take vengeance. You're not a vigilante. But here's where God gets his vengeance. It's mine, he says. Vengeance is mine. And here's how he normally does it. It should be obvious to any Christian to support Trump getting vengeance on the evildoers. That should be obvious, but it isn't. It isn't. And the big reason is because people refuse, and there's so many of them. I mean, I could name so many people right now. Some of them are evangelical leaders. Some of them work for the Babylon Bee. Some of them, there's just so many different people that some of them are just straight up bad actors. They know exactly what they're doing. Many of them have just been, they're like their teachers. You know what I mean? When you're a student, you become like your teacher, and your teacher taught you to think in slogans, to treat the Bible verses as if they were individual slogans, right? And then they also have a very particular way that they show them to you, right? Where it looks a certain way, but what they're doing is because they're reading them like slogans and they put them all together in a certain, very particular kind of way, it makes you, over time, if you hear that kind of stuff enough, you start to believe that there's no appropriate time for viciousness. There's no for any entity, whether it's a government or individual. There's no time for it, and they show you these verses in a very particular way. And of course, obviously, they leave out verses in a very particular way. And before you know it, you've got John Piper, who I've got great respect for, who will tell you that if a masked intruder came into his house to hurt his wife, he would plead with them not to, but he wouldn't shoot him. He wouldn't kill him. And you hear that stuff enough, and it's backed up enough by slogans, verses that are really just operating as slogans, that you start to believe that to be a Christian is to be a doormat, is to be pathetic, is to be less than a man. And you start to think that, and even when something unbelievably, obviously heinous happens, like a peaceful guy, father of two, husband to a wife, all around nice guy, gets shot in the neck, and killed, that's the time to be like, oh well, we gotta, don't take the bait, and that's the time to use the slogans, to deploy the slogans, and they feel totally justified in it. And again, many of these people I have no sympathy for. Many of them I do. There's a time for sitting and waiting and patience and all of this kind of stuff, and then there's a time for action. And the truth is that there's a large segment of people, Christians, who've been trained by very pathetic men. Gospel Coalition, you know who I'm talking about. I used to think that kind of stuff was worthless. Gospel Coalition, essentially worthless. That was my position. It's actually worse than worthless. It's worse than worthless. Gospel Coalition and their friends have successfully chopped the balls off tons and tons and tons of Christians. And it's just not, it's not a situation that is, there's really no way out of it until it's completely destroyed. That whole idea is completely destroyed. And so this is the thing, like I believe that, listen, I'm just a guy on YouTube. You know what I mean? I'm just one person. I'm not a politician. I'm not a civil governing authority. I'm not a police officer. I'm not any of these things. But what I can do, and what I have done in the past, is to wage an all-out war against this kind of biblical teaching. And that's what I'm going to do. So into the future, we're gonna continue to do what I'm known for, and we're going to take apart the mindless, worthless platitudes, the sloganizing of Christianity, to make it seem like there really is no response to this besides maybe praying for peace and maybe saying "How long, O Lord" and stuff like that. Like that's like basically the only response, right? Or blaming it on polarization. That's the response, right? We're going to take that apart. We're going to take it apart meticulously. Of course, I'm going to bring my humor into it. But we're just going in. It's going to be vicious, and we're just going to go all out. It's as simple as that, because that's something that I can do, right? That's what I have to focus on. I have to focus on the things that I can do, and the things that I can't do. I mean, I can't spend time thinking about that stuff. There's just too much. There's just too much. But I will say that Trump's time is now, and I'll support it. It's as simple as that. I'll support it. I am but a humble subject. He's the civil governing authority, him and his friends, him and his people, and that's that. And so, that's the position of this channel. All right, that's the position. It has to come to an end. He's got to channel Bukele, and he's got to make it happen. It's as simple as that. And the words were good. I mean, you saw what he said. But it's time for action. Words are not enough. It's time for action. There's a great scene in the movie Blood Diamond, which it's an okay movie. I mean, entertaining in some ways. I wouldn't give it the whole seal of approval, but it's okay. But there's a great scene in that movie where the father, his son was taken by African militia, it was a child soldier situation, and he finally gets him back, and the guy who took him is there, and the father has been he's been pretty passive the entire movie, afraid, running away, all this kind of stuff. But then he has this moment where just something clicks in him, and he turns into like a vicious beast, and he ends up killing the guy who stole his son. and turned him into a child soldier. And that moment where he just changes. He, like, the whole movie, he's running, he's fearful, he's passive, and then there's something awakens in him, and it's just brutal, absolutely brutal. Just kills this guy. There's a time for that. There's a time for that, and it's about time that Christians recognized that that is part of what God has for us. There's a time for peace. There's a time for war. It's true. It's as simple as that. I saw, oh man, Daryl Harrison post something about. Let's see if I can find it here. I thought it was good. He posted something about evil. I don't know. Maybe I can't find it. There it is. He says, "Hate evil, you who love the Lord." It's from a psalm. Good psalm. I agreed with that, and I just wanted to add that here's the thing: like, Big Evo will talk about evil, but they talk about it in this disembodied, abstract kind of a way, and that's not what evil is. Evil is not disembodied. Evil is not abstract. It's not this entity that's out there, and it's just this entity called evil. No, it's people, and they do evil things. And when you're hating evil, you understand who you're hating. You have to. You have to. And that has to do something to you. That has to do something to you. In any case, that is all I will say. Obviously, it was a little bit of a different video than normal. But I'm energized, and we'll see where this takes us. We'll see where this takes us. Hope you found this video helpful. God bless.